Tim, I can't figure it out. I can't figure out why for a couple weeks they find stuff that works, and then they think, let's stop doing the stuff that works, and let's go back to more of the stuff that didn't work. Can you explain the thought process?
Yeah, the only real answer I could give you guys, if I'm being honest about the Minnesota game, is we, for some reason, just didn't think the Vikings were going to come out in man coverage. Because the only thing that would make sense, like if you look at the tape, how much press man we got, how much single high coverage we got, to not have, did you see it? I didn't see a single rub concept, right? I didn't see a single time where, hey, we're going to push the envelope and try to pick somebody and make these refs throw a flag. I didn't see one of those. And like, if we're being honest, where, Getty comes from, that's a staple. Like, you go play Green Bay, you run man coverage, they're going to rub the hell out of you, right? That's just what they're going to do. So the fact that we really, our only man beater we had in was, hey, let's try to throw a go. And we didn't even try to throw him, really. We had one sluggo. We ran a bunch of stick. I just think it was a sloppy game plan. And the only way that I could justify it in my head would be like, listen, we had these 6 concepts that we thought we would run on third down against man coverage. And they came out and they said, guess what? We're going to man you up and we're going to heat you up on every down. And we just didn't have enough installed to really get it done. And then Justin goes down. And so we have an even smaller package with Tyson to where it just, you're hamstrung. That would be the only rational explanation to not have any man beaters in a game in which you basically saw strictly single high coverage.
The conversation in game, Tim, between quarterback, QB coach, offensive play caller, as adjustments are being made, especially once you get there, you got the tablet on the sideline, you're evaluating everything. So it's one thing to go in with a certain idea, but how do you feel like that information flow should progress throughout a game when the opponent's throwing something at you that's different than you anticipate going in, and at some point you say, okay, here's what we're seeing, here's the adjustments that we can attempt. And it does feel like when they've gone in with a quality game plan, they've stuck to it, it's gone well. More often than not this season, when the game plan hasn't suited the opponent, then it hasn't gone well.
Yeah, Anthony, I think you're dead on. I mean, the truth is we talked about it 2 weeks ago with the boot fumble we had at the end of the game. Well, we should have identified that, 3 snaps earlier that, hey, the Broncos DN's flying upfield, right? We need to put in cutback, not another boot play. So to me, I think that communication has always been an issue. And I think this is compounding because at the end of the day, is it realistic to put in an entire game plan on the sideline? Like, we all know that's not realistic. Is it realistic to put in double dragon that, like, I can run with my first grade flag team on the sideline? Yeah, we could run double slant with a flat and tell NFL wide receivers to pick the guy inside, right? Like, you don't have to reinvent the wheel to give yourself some third down opportunities that aren't stick, right? And then we're talking about, hey, you've got a rookie quarterback from a small school, undrafted kid, comes in there, and guess what? We call stick, and my guy's throwing the whole shot, right? Less than ideal when you got DJ Moore as the number 3 receiver. But
it was
those
there.
Are the kind of things,
he just almost got him destroyed.
So to me, it's like there's things that are less than ideal, but there's also answers. Like Anthony's saying, you can sit there on the sideline. We can run double dragon. We can run Ruby where, hey, we're going to run a spot concept. We're going to run the corner. We'll peel the spot back out after impact. Like, there's a lot of stuff that you can put in on the sideline that all these guys will have ran in either high school or college. That's not overly complicated, but it gives you more man beaters. Instead, we just didn't do that. And I think there is some sort of issue from a communication standpoint, whether it's the QB coach, the OC, or the quarterback themselves. We are just not as efficient as we should be. I also think, and I don't want to sound overly critical of Tyson, I do think that's the downside of having a young backup quarterback. Like, usually we pay Brian Hoyer or Chase Daniel a lot of money to stay in the league as basically another coach, right? Those are the kind of guys that you need on the sideline who are relaying info. When you have a younger backup, you're not going to get that same type of communication that you would get from some of those older guys.
I want to rewind for a second, because when you say the stick concept, I mean, people think the stick route like a simple button hook to a tight end, but I know there's Y stick, and then there's the concept, and it's a 3 route. If I have it right, it's that the tight end stopping in that short zone, the deep over you're calling the hole, and then isn't there a flat aspect also?
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of variations. The one that the Bears are running it's 3-by-1. Okay, and we label 3-by-1 outside in. So the farthest guy towards the sideline, that's our number one receiver, right? Formationally, it could be X, Z, whoever. But when we're talking just, whatever, it's our number one receiver. He's on an MOSR clear, mandatory outside release vertical. You do not throw that. I mean, very rarely do you throw it, right? That's one of those that it's like, hey, check it in case he fell down, right? We talked about it.
What if it's DJ Moore? Seriously, what if it's DJ Moore in a one-on-one?
Yep, DJ Moore one-on-one, you'd alert it. But DJ Moore for the Bears this week was the number 3 receiver. He wasn't running the clear.
Okay.
Right? We talked about it a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's that girl that's really attractive at the party. You're going to check in with her. You know you don't have a shot, but you're going to check in, right? Early on. Hey, what do you think? She's going to shoot you down. You're going to move on, right?
Yep.
So your number 1 receiver, MOSR clear, they're out of there. Your number 2 receiver, we call it a sticks with an X, STIX, okay? He's going to be more like an out route, but he's going to have an out route with a little bit of feel for the quarterback, because if we have that hard cover 2 corner, we don't want to get hung out to dry if we take it. That's our first progression. Our second progression is DJ Moore, in this case, the number 3 receiver. He's on the true outside turn stick route, okay, because formationally we had DJ as the number 3.
Okay.
That's the guy you're throwing the ball to.
Okay.
You peek that sticks with an X, you peek it, 9 times out of 10.
I think the Cylons got him just as he was explaining.
Giving away too many of the goods.
Right. It was getting too juicy. We had too much. The sexy football tripwire tripped.
Yeah.
The fuse blew because the football got too sexy.
Well, when we get him back, one thing
we got him. We got him.
Okay.
All right. So you look at the sticks, but you don't want to hang the guy out to dry against a cover 2 corner.
Yeah, sorry. Every time I start talking like too much ball, it's like they kick me off. They're like, hey, dude, you're an idiot. But listen, we've got the sticks. We're gonna peek it. Really, this week, we wanted to hit DJ Moore on the true stick route, and he was the closest guy to the quarterback, too. And listen, he's wide open. So, to me, formationally, we got it dressed up to where you give him a little bit of a different look. Hey, DJ's not the guy outside. He's now our number 3 receiver. It's more high percentage completion. But those are the kind of concepts. And the reason I'm frustrated with it is that's like a very football 101, right? It's like the beginning of football. And it's like, how is that our man answer at this point in the season to where we have to run it 5 times, right? Like, we should not have to run that 5 times. And that's just where we're at with the Bears. And I think it's frustrating. And it's frustrating that we didn't execute it, right? And, like, there's a lot of good, I think, that Tyson could get from a week of work. But, we're 4th and 3, and we're trying to drive the cover 2 hole shot, which part of me loves it, right? Part of me's a fan of someone who's aggressive with the football. The other part of me is like, hey, man, we pay this dude. We got this dude from Carolina in a trade. We're going to pay him a lot of money. Let's go ahead and feed him the ball when he's wide open on 4th and 3.
Tim, a couple of questions about Justin Fields. One of my observations has been that when Getty gets the pocket on the move, when there is some flow, some rhythm, some misdirection, and not necessarily, I love some called QB run, just being a part of keeping the defense off balance and forcing some coverage to drop down. But then beyond that, just Justin on the move, it seems to unlock something, in my opinion. And then even the pocket-based version of the offense becomes a little more electric because he's sort of into the flow, into the rhythm of the game. Have you been around quarterbacks like that, where just having allowing that mental break at times, just to be on the move and not have the full field reads, where that mental break on occasion is something that can even unlock what's more the maybe the mental gymnastics that are required of the position?
Yeah, I think you got to lean into it. I think you're spot on in that. Hey, what Justin likes, he likes to get on the move a little bit early. Same way, guess what, Tom? He loved just that quick, hey, we're going to run a little wide juke over the ball, right? That's how they started basically how they started every game for New England for like 14 years, was we're going to run wide juke, and it's either Gronk or it's Edelman, and we'll formationally get to it, and we're going to have that first completion over the middle. That's going to get Tom into the game. You have to do that for quarterbacks. You have to get them into the game. It's the same way when you hear Aaron Rodgers talk. He says, there's certain guys I try to feed early on because I want to get them in the ball game. You have to do the same for quarterbacks. Justin's a guy, get him on the move. Sometimes it seems like sometimes he likes to almost run QB power to start the game, right? Yeah, it's like he's one of those guys who likes to get downhill. So to me, get him on the move, let him get that early completion, and then you're 100% right in that. Then that unlocks some of those shots. Even think about the Thursday night football game. What we miss coming out of the gate? A deep shot, right? Then he gets into the ball game, and what didn't we miss the rest of the day? The deep shots, right? It felt like then those were hitting. So to me, that's part of understanding your players. it's another piece in the whole puzzle of like, are we really doing right by that kid? It's also hard too. I don't want to come on here and make an excuse for him every single week, right? Where it's like, at some point we have to take ownership over our performance. I just think when you talk about young quarterbacks and everybody says, hey, the situation matters, there's so much that factors into it. And having a play caller who understands, man, how can I get this guy going today? That's an important aspect of calling plays. It's why we pay people millions of dollars to have this giant spreadsheet and pick from things, is because, like, listen, anybody can make the spreadsheet of what looks cool and highlight it, right? Not everybody can call a perfectly sequenced ball game, and that's part of their job, is to know, hey, what gets this kid going, and let's get him moving, get him outside the pocket a little bit, clear his vision. I think a lot of it has to do with vision. You get out of the pocket, man, you can see that comeback, and it's wide open in your eyes, right? Then you hit that one, man, next time I hit my 3 and a hitch and I'm trying to throw that bender, it feels the same. And to me, I just think there's a lot that we need to do from a sequencing perspective, whether it's Fields next week or Tyson, that is going to help these young quarterbacks play more efficient football.
If you're going to take a quarterback and tell him he had to keep playing quarterback in the National Football League, but you were going to lop off one finger, which is the least important finger for a QB? Which is the most important finger for a quarterback?
Yeah, if I'm lopping off something on my throwing hand, it's probably my pinky.
Okay.
Least important.
Okay.
Most important is my thumb.
Okay.
If you can't wrap it, you got no shot in hell of being secure in the pocket. So, yeah, I think at the end of the day, if it's on your throwing hand, like, there comes a point where you're just going to have to see how the ball spins and if you can still be accurate, because that's a huge deal, right? If it's on your throwing hand. I think that's where too, it's like fans are like, oh, come on, he's got to go. And I'm like, dude, let's see how he's actually spinning the football. If he can't spin the football, there's just no reason to have him roll. If he gets to the point where you feel confident, hey, we can get the ball out of our hand and we can spin it with efficiency, I think then, to me, you play Justin unless Justin can't play. That's where I'm at. I know there's, different fans have different opinions, but right now hey, we're playing Fields if he can go. If he can't, then you put Tyson in.
Weird question. Feel free to clown me if you think this is stupid, but Justin Fields on the play that he got hurt, he held the ball for 6.1 seconds, which we know is too long. The point that Lawrence made yesterday is sometimes when you get sacked, fighting for every last breath and every living, just trying to constantly extend the play may not be in your best interest. When you're coaching, do you ever coach someone how to get sacked or how not to get sacked?
No, it's really not a dumb question. Here's the quarterback faces, in my opinion, especially a guy like Justin Fields. If you start throwing the ball away, you're not a competitor. If you compete to the very end, you put yourself at a high risk of injury, right? So especially when you then start talking about, I'm going to try to throw the ball away because now my shoulder's exposed, my hand's exposed, all this stuff. The reality is as you mature in the league, you have to start to figure out that balance. What down and distance? What's the score? Those are all things that factor in. When you saw him lower his shoulder against Washington and run that dude over to then set up where he throws the backside 9 stop for a go-ahead touchdown, that's exactly what your locker room needs to see. If it's 2nd and 12, right, in the middle of the first quarter of a tied ball game, we can probably throw the ball out of bounds. However, how do you look a guy in the eyes and say, hey, man, stop competing so hard? Right? That's
no, that's what I mean. But
yeah,
sometimes, if you watch Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, they were like, "Yep, you got me."
Yep, turtling up.
Yep.
I also think those guys have it's almost this earning it. Those guys have earned the turtle, and we want to see young quarterbacks compete. It's just those guys have to figure that out on their own. What I do know is that, and it's not you guys, but I do know that if Fields started throwing the ball away more, you'd have a whole group of people saying, this dude's not a competitor. He doesn't want to compete for this ball club, which is part of this thing, the balancing act. And then, everybody knows at some point those thoughts get into the locker room.
Yep.
We want to pretend like we're perfect and we don't hear anything. We all hear everything, right? Some guys do a better job of blocking it out, but we all hear everything. So to me, I think, with Justin and where he's at in his career, I would always lean on keep competing your tail off, because I think right now there's a narrative of like, hey, let's play Tyson, that I don't think exists in that locker room, because I think those guys look at one and they say, this dude is giving everything on every snap. Like, there's no give up in him, which I think goes a long way in what the actual locker room vibe is versus what the exterior conversation is.
Hashtag earn the turtle. I love it.
Turtle.
All right.
Yeah.
20 seconds or less before we let you go. A game plan that would be best for Tyson Bagent.
Shot plays. I think run the ball, and then when you are going to throw it, give him a play action shot play or RPO in the quick game. I'm not sure he's there yet from a reading the full field progression, but I do think if you can simplify it for him and tie his feet to it, he can kind of drive the ball down the field a little bit if we make it an easy decision for him.
Great stuff. Tim Jenkins, thanks as always.